Hello and welcome to DDOcast episode 445, recorded live on Saturday, September 16th. I'm your host, Patrick. With me this week, we have returning from DDO Players News, Draculetta.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah, welcome back. We also have returning Asheris.
Hey, how's it going, everyone?
Good. Also to you, welcome back. Good to have you back. And then we have a new guest this week from Kyber, Enoch.
Hey there, how you doing?
Yeah, welcome back. This week's screenshot is posing in precarious places provides a picturesque panorama in the 286th screenshot of the week. Also, a lot of alliteration. That's a lot of... I'm not sure if that was Cordovan who put that together or if that was the person who sent it in.
That is a lot of words.
It's a lot of words that start with P. All in a row.
I think he had to get his book out for that one.
Yeah, right. Like, how fast can you say that sentence and not mess it up? Not very. We like to talk about Dungeons & Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can watch us through Twitch, YouTube, the DDO forums, iTunes, or from our website at DDOcast.com. DDOcast is hosted by Cyber Ears, the awesome podcast hosting network. Shows are usually available within a few days of recording. The next show will probably be next weekend. We're looking at doing a show on the new Canis Crafting. And you can stay updated by following us on our social media pages or our website, DDOcast.com. We have this cool little calendar that you can subscribe to and put on your phone and do all sorts of really crazy things with. If you didn't know about that, I plug it every once in a while, a little bit harder than normal. But it has show times when we do DDO Splat, and has store sales and bonus days on it as well. Usually keep that up to date. On the podcast this week, we're going to talk about Update 32. Update 32 is live. You can assault the slave lords now, if you so choose. Hopefully you don't get arrested for doing such a thing. It seems just kind of mean, right? Assaulting the slave lords. There's new loot, some community news.
I deserve it.
Yeah. Then for our discussion this week, we're going to do something a little fun. There's been some talk about new races. We debated a little bit of what we would like them to look like on the show. This week, actually, Cordovan put up a poll on the forums and basically asked, and I'll just read what he wrote. It said, "We know this can be a tricky thing to ask because folks might read more into it than intended, but they've been mulling over various plans for the next anniversary and have a, quote, this doesn't mean we will 100% do it, question." So this was the question. Assuming Tiefling and ASMR arrive in a later update, would you prefer a Kobold-themed anniversary with playable Kobold race or a Dragon-themed anniversary with a playable Dragonborn race? So, really quick, we'll just go around the table and say which we would prefer. I'm leaning towards the Dragon-themed anniversary, less because of the Dragonborn race, more because of dragons. I mean, Dragonborn race would be fun too, but I don't know. I'd be interested in a dragon-themed anniversary a little bit more than a kobold-themed anniversary, just because there's a lot more kobolds in the game. That's really what it comes down to.
So you're saying it's Dungeons and Dragons, not Dungeons and Kobolds. That's what you're saying.
It's not even that, right? it's you look at the game and there's a lot of kobolds.
True.
And if I look at kobolds versus dragons, I think dragons are more interesting to fight. That's really what it comes down to for me. So. What about you guys? What are you kind of leaning towards with that question?
I agree with you. I went with Dragonborn and Dragons, in part because I think the Dragonborn race is a better race than the Kobold race, but also just because I'm experiencing a lot of Kobold fatigue right now. You know, they put them in Creeping Death. They put them in Legendary Shroud. They didn't used to be there. They were in the anniversary event in that one area you had to run through. So that's U29. That's U30. They were in U31 as well because they're in Search and Rescue. And now in U32, we've got them in the Slaver series, even though they're not in the module that I recall. So we've gotten them in the last 4 updates in a row. I kind of like to see something different because it is starting to feel like Dungeons and Kobolds, honestly, as often as they're being gone to.
Yeah, and I myself actually lean towards the dragon theme, mainly because of the dragon theme, not the Dragonborn.
See, because kobolds, if you ask them, are actually dragons. They would tell you that.
It's true. If you can ask them, if you speak their language.
But if we did go with the kobold theme, I hope we all get to collect crystals. That would be the fun part. And have NPCs defend us as we do that.
Sure. Drac, what do you think?
I'm kind of torn, actually. I agree they are kind of overusing the Kobold thing, but I mean, Kobold is so iconic to Dungeons and Dragons, though. But then so is a dragon, and I don't think there's enough dragons in the game, so I'm torn. I couldn't really decide. I haven't actually voted yet because I can't make up my mind.
Well, let me just put this out there, Drac, and this will help you make up your mind. If it's dragon themed, we could get metallic dragons.
Well, okay. See, now you're talking.
Absolutely, because that's something that's missing right now.
I would lean more towards dragon then for that.
Yeah. Oh, and just a correction. We've always had Casquick in the Shroud. We haven't had the little mini kobolds, but we've always had Casquick as a possibility.
That's true. And I'm fine with Casquick.
Yeah.
He makes you remember your death block.
Or reminds you that you've forgotten it. That's generally how it goes for me. All right, so there's our thoughts on that question. So we kind of ran with this a little bit farther than perhaps they intended. But we're going to talk about races that are not in DDO that players could actually play. And we'll start with, just in general, does DDO need more races? Simple question.
I'm going to say yes. I say the more racial options that we have, the more diverse the player base is going to be, especially if we continue to have good racial enhancements that go well with their favorite classes.
I'd go with yes as well. I think that when I look at the class listing we have 14 classes, and I feel like it's a good mix of classes. I don't know what other classes you can find that are really not going to just be a rehash on one of the other ones already. But for the races, I feel like that's different. I feel like there's a much larger variety of races you can do that will be unique. Races also give you some nice visual differences, whereas classes don't do that. And from a programming standpoint, they're probably a little bit easier because they have the one racial tree versus having 3 PREs and all that sort of thing. So I think it's a great way to add new complexity, new customization to the game. The combination of races and classes is always something that creates a lot of diversity, and I like that. It's a big part of the building aspect of the game is to find those synergies between the two. So I'm all for more races.
Yeah, I think more races are always good. More options, better builds you can do, different types of builds you could do. But the only thing that I would worry about, though, is I wouldn't want to see them do too many too fast, because then you would suffer from, because I know we are based on 3.5, and everybody knows 3.5 had the quote-unquote splat book problem. And I'm afraid that would start happening to DDO as well if they throw too many new things in at once. But I think the way they're spreading them out is okay. But yes, I think we do need new races.
Yeah. New races would be good, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with new races. I think really where it's going to come into is where do you want them, right? Like, is it something that you want from the standpoint that are you really going to be looking at having too many other things going on? Is it going to take time away from other things? So that's kind of the problem. That's what you have to look at and say, is this really what we want to be doing?
And I understand that, but we do have our intelligence races and our con races and our strength races, and we do need at least a few more. Throw in some wisdom type races, and maybe a few more charisma based races as well.
Yeah, we can definitely say that. Are there any other things that we would want to see? What we started talking a little bit. What do we want to see with races? Like, you're just talking about charisma races. I know wisdom-based races is something that people are interested in, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, I think right now charisma you can only get through the drow, which also comes with the dex and the int, and so it has the unique build point setup. So just a straight charisma race would be nice. And then we don't have a wisdom race straight up. It's only an iconic, which has to start at 15 and go to 30 and so on. So having a base race, for each stat would be nice. I think that would be a really strong one. I wouldn't even mind to see a strength, or even maybe another intelligence one as well. We seem very heavy on dex and constitution primarily.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that as well.
So let's go on to tieflings. Like, what do we want to? Do we like tieflings? What do we like about them? What do we want to see with them? Do we not want them at all?
Oh, I like the tiefling. I think the tiefling is a great race to put in there. I could even see them doing an iconic if they wanted to with sorcerer. So.
I agree. I think the tiefling, it's a core 4th edition and 5th edition race. I know we're based on 3.5, but at the same time, I think we have to grow with where Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro are going with the game and keep some synergy there. So that way we keep synergy with the folks who are into the pencil and paper and who are interested in the Dungeons and Dragons aspects. And since this is a race that's become core, that's important. And you look at what they're doing in Forgotten Realms with the Salvatore books and such. He had a pretty major character in Ephron who was a tiefling. He had some their whole Netheril plotline had a lot of tieflings in it. And so if it's going to be in the other media, then I think that DDO should follow on with that and gain some synergy and some leverage. And I think they do match well with Sork. They match well with Warlock. And a iconic in either one of those two would be great. And those are two classes that, although Warlock doesn't need any power boosts, that don't have an iconic today.
Yeah, and the only reason I went with Sorcerer is because Warlock is already boosted quite well. So
fair point.
Drac, what are your thoughts on tieflings?
Shut up, take my money, I want my tiefling warlock.
That works.
Easy as that. Yeah, I've been wanting tieflings forever.
And I don't care about the tail, just so we're clear.
Care about what?
I don't care about the tail.
Oh, the tail. Yeah, no.
No tail's fine.
Yeah, tail, not so much. The horns, they got to have horns, though. Because that's just like a tiefling thing. But tail, I can give or take. I don't really care either way.
Yeah, I could go either way. I don't consider it something that's make or break, right?
Right, exactly.
So, yeah, tails are here or there. Tieflings could be fun. I'm not necessarily for or against them, I guess. So that's kind of where I'm on. I was like, want tieflings? Okay. No, don't have tieflings? I'm not going to worry about it. I'd say there's probably other races I'd find a little more interesting, but it depends on what they're going to do, right? Charisma base would be nice. Sure, it would be nice to have a tiefling warlock if for another reason that's kind of what you would normally expect.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree there.
So, or at least it's, I don't necessarily expect, but it would be a good, iconic kind of direction to go as a tiefling, right? And presumably they would have some things that would support that. Well, possibly not. Let's talk about Aasimar, which I think is, I feel like most people know what a tiefling is, and I feel like most people don't know what an Aasimar is.
Actually, I actually enjoy the Aasimar race. With the pen and paper group that I have right now, we actually have 2 Aasimars in the group. And to me, they make some of the best divine type classes, be it paladin, cleric, favored soul, for those kind of aspects. And I actually think the class or the race would be very good addition to the game, especially since it is a wisdom and charisma focused race.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they are outsiders, I think, is a unique thing and a neat thing. I think it would blend very well to a magical focused race, which I think we have a fairly limited number of. And I think that from a physical standpoint, they could look a little different, but wouldn't necessarily be a huge difference in terms of their appearance, in terms of the artwork necessary. I would very much like to see them.
See, and I'm kind of like you, Patrick, with you in the tieflings. I'm like either way on this. I'm like, I really don't care. I'm like, if they do, they do. If they don't, they don't. I mean, I'm not jumping up and down excited about it.
I just see them as a counter to the tiefling, the opposite end.
Yeah, I could see the whole yin-yang thing with them. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to like do them both at the same time, and then, like you said, you can just counter each other. But, my question is, if you do an Aasimar, will they ever eventually do a Deva? That's true.
There's a lot of ways you could go down that rabbit hole for eons, right?
Right.
You
Well,
this race, you
exactly.
can do this race, you can do this race. So
how much time we have? Yeah, exactly.
Right, exactly. I would say, I feel like Aasimar is a little bit more exciting for me than Tieflings, just because I feel like they're a little more different. Tieflings to me and this is probably because of the way they're portrayed in DDO, but they almost feel a little bit too much like just a slightly glorified human, if that makes sense. I know they're a little bit more than that, but that's kind of what they feel like a little bit.
Well, in theory, that's what an Aasimar is. It's a highly glorified human in many cases.
But the idea of, here's the thing. People are always talking about tieflings, so they're a little, okay, whatever for me. Aasimars would be like, oh, well, that would be interesting. People don't normally, I've never had anyone play an Aasimar. I've never actually even used them as a DM. So
I think if you looked at what you might do in a racial enhancement tree, I think Tiefling versus Aasimar, I think there's a lot of interesting things you could really do with the Aasimar in their enhancement tree that could be really unique that we don't see in other trees. Not necessarily things that would be overpowered, but just really interesting. So I like the idea of them too.
Especially when you think about what would the Tiefling tree be? Oh, it might be kind of similar to a Warlock tree. Not necessarily, but you start thinking how you can shortcut making a racial tree there, and you can just give them some toned down things that would go kind of more towards the Warlock skew. Aasimar, I don't know. You could have some interesting. I feel like you'd have a little bit more interesting synergies going on there. Obviously,
yeah, especially since there is a lot of different Aasimar tweaks and things like that out there.
I also think that you think about Tieflings, Warlocks, Aasimars, you're probably leaning more towards the Divine classes, right? Which could probably use a little bit more help and bells and whistles, if we're honest.
And could use synergy. There's just not a lot of races right now that have a lot of strong synergy with your Divine classes. So,
Helena in the chat room is advocating if we're going to have Aasimars, they need to have Wisdom to hit and damage. So,
I would love to see Wisdom hit and damage show up somewhere. That'd be awesome.
All right, so let's talk about kobolds as a player race. How do you guys feel about that?
I'm negative on it personally. I mean, they're not a actual playable race in any version of Dungeons and Dragons outside of a really seriously homebrew or just anything goes kind of thing. I don't really see the real basis for having them as a playable race. I think one of the comments someone made earlier was that kobolds are iconic lore in D&D, and I think they're iconic lore in Eberron because of Eberron's background with the Cyber East and Kyber and all that, and the way they sprung off of that. But when I played Greyhawk and when I played Forgotten Realms back in the 80s when I was doing pencil and paper a lot, I very rarely ran into kobolds. They were a very minor race. I actually had to kind of remind myself what they were when I started playing DDO. So I just don't really I don't have a strong connection to them outside of this game. And like I said, I feel like in this game they're already heavily overused.
And my personal opinion is I kind of agree that if I never see kobold as a race, I wouldn't be disappointed.
Yeah, it's not at the top of my list. That's what it comes down to. It does have an interesting thing, and we'll talk a little more about this later. I mean, you're playing a monster race at that point, which is a little intriguing. There is some, I think there is some potential when you're talking about Kobold as a race because they're talking about having it be kind of possibly a hard mode, which could be interesting. But then why are you going to do that? A past life, okay, or to unlock something else? There's some directions you can go there.
Yeah, but there's so many other better monster races you could do other than Cobalt to do that, though.
Yeah, I think one of my problems with the Cobalt is it's just not really super heroic. Even in the game, it feels like Cobalt has kind of become synonymous with worker bee or grunt or something like that. In terms of their mining capability and things like that. But they're kind of the comic relief. They say these cute little things about never forgetting the waterworks and all that sort of thing, which is funny. They kind of remind me of like a Mary from Lord of the Rings or C-3PO or something like that. But they're not the hero. They're not Aragorn. They're not Han Solo. They're not. And when I play this game, I want to be the hero. I don't want to be the sidekick or the red shirt. They're kind of like the red shirt. That would be in Star Trek. they're the nameless guy you bring along to die to create a sense of peril so that your main people don't have to get hurt. But they're not the main people. They're not Spock or Kirk. That's how I feel about them. That's my vision of them. So I like them in the periphery, but as the center focus, I wouldn't be excited about it.
Do you think that kobolds are only popular because of Cindy's voice work?
Yes. I think that has a lot to do with it because she gave a whole new life to the Kobold race, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if they do make Kobold as a race, their jump needs to exceed 40.
That could cause some problems, but yeah, sure, go that direction. All right, so let's talk about the other option that they were proposing in their poll here, which by the way is winning handily, Dragonborn. Which I was going to mention actually with kobolds before we get too far away. There are actually rules in at least 3.5 for playing them. They're not. I mean, it's not in the core books or anything, but you can actually figure out how to do that. Or at least there's rules for how to give kobolds class levels for the DM, which you can then use as the players. But in any case, Dragonborn. Let's talk about Dragonborn, which is essentially a kobold on steroids, right? And a little bit more draconic, like actually has draconic heritage.
Yeah, I think that's the case. I kind of see them as coming out of the Dragonlance series to some degree, with the they had the characters in there, the basically the main villains in some of the earlier books that were a dragon-based creature. That's what I picture them as in my mind, is something like that. But a bipedal, 6 foot, plus humanoid, and to me that's a lot more exciting. It's a lot more fun, and they are actual core races in 4th and 5th edition. I don't know that I've seen a whole lot of lore about them from Wizards of the Coast or a lot of focus on from them, but to me they hit that heroic requirement that I'm looking for to be able to play a race.
I agree. I think Dragonborn would be a good alternative race for the for DDO as they bring it in. Just like Azamar, there's a lot of different things they can do with the enhancement tree that could really make a difference between one Dragonborn and another, from the chromatic to the metallic backgrounds, as well as a breath weapon and things like that.
Do you think the breath weapon needs to be more of a racial tree thing, or is it just going to need to be like an actual just racial feat kind of ability?
I think it should be part of the race, but I think the tree should allow some enhancements to it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'd be interested in what they would do with the armor situation. Would this be more of a Warforged situation where they wear some sort of docent style thing, or would they actually wear regular armor? And would they have natural armor?
I thought they wore regular armor in the.
They can. I've seen them wear regular armor in a lot of the artwork and stuff, but their natural skin is so much harder. That would be an interesting thing too. Is there some kind of like with the Warforged with the plating? Could you take some feats maybe that would boost that up, or are there some things in the
racial
enhancement tree?
enhancement tree again.
Yeah.
Of the ones we've talked about, I feel like Dragonborn is the one that's. It would be the easiest to come up with a racial enhancement tree. Like it's.
I think
breath
Dragonborn
weapon
and
natural armor
Azamar
stuff.
would be easy. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think both of those would be very easy to come up with a very full enhancement tree that would actually rival class trees in the sense of will it be worth spending here versus there?
I don't know about you guys, but the Warforged is about the only race I actually consistently spend action points that I don't have in the tree. All the other races, it's just kind of an afterthought.
Non-iconics, I would probably agree with that for the most part. Although on an elf, I love to get that displacement off of the dragon mark. I like displacement though. On any character that can't cast it naturally.
Yeah, displacement's nice.
Very nice.
Drac, do you have any thoughts on Dragonborn?
Well, the only thing I just want to point out is I know we talked about this before we started recording, but I just want to put this out here for the public record that I've noticed on the forums people are a little confused. Dragonborn are not from Skyrim, people. They are from Dungeons and Dragons. Look in the 3.5 Dragon book. It was called, hang on, let me give you the exact name. Races of the Dragon is where they were originally from. So, and that was way before Elder Scrolls. So, I just thought it was funny when they started talking about Dragonborn. Everybody's like, "Well, why are you going to add a Skyrim race? This is not Skyrim." And it's like, oh, people. But I like the idea of having them just for the breath weapon. I think that is going to add a lot of build options.
And we already have breath weapons in the game, so it's not like it's new code.
Right, exactly.
But here's the real key question, though. Tails or no tails?
Then again, I mean, either way, it doesn't matter to me.
It doesn't matter to me either. I mean,
no, it doesn't matter. It would be nice to be able to choose, but it doesn't matter.
I almost feel like if you're going to make a Dragonborn, I feel like that actually needs a tail. Like, Tieflings, I don't feel like they need to have a tail. But Dragonborns, like, if there's no tail, is it really a Dragonborn?
Well, you have like hide armor that's your skin that looks like dragon, so it's pretty easy to tell what you are.
Well, yeah, but
even without the tail, I mean, you can look at it and say, "Oh yeah, that looks like some type of dragon." So
maybe. So what we'll do here is let's talk about a couple other races they haven't talked about, and then we'll talk about kind of more specific. So we'll start with Drac put in Eladrin. What's your appeal for those?
Oh, actually, that was me. I put in Eladrin.
Oh, sorry. Right.
That's okay. Yeah, they're a 4th edition core race, and I think they're an interesting race. They would be a good one for the casters. A good one for a different build stat. I think, but just as we're talking about different races that you might want to look at. Before we get to purely monstrous races like kobolds, the races that have traditionally in pen and paper been a core race or been a player race are the ones that really, have a lot more interest for me, and Eladrin is one of those. So
we just turn into a little glowing ball.
That would be an interesting thing. And again, I think an enhancement tree that might have some unique synergies, particularly with divines and casters.
All right. Anyone else have any thoughts on Eladrin?
No, I kind of agree with the Eladrin race.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a race that I'm very not familiar with. Someone explain to me what a Kalashtar is.
They're really smart. That's what I know. I've learned that in Grey Moon. I know they're an Eberron core race. I'm not a big Eberron person from a lore standpoint, so I'm not.
I don't even remember them.
Yeah, I don't remember all the features about them. I do know that they're primarily used for psionics. I was never a fan in pen and paper of the psionic myself, but that's a different discussion, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can go down the Psionic rabbit trail a little bit though, because I know Ash put in a couple of races. I think it's the Githyanki and the Githeri, I think, are both kind of related. Don't they have some sort of psionic? They're not like necessarily have to be in the psionics from psionics standpoint, but they're in the monster main for 3-5, and they have some like telepathic abilities, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think the 3-5 psionics book included several player races like Elon and Maenads, which are basically humanoid sort of runs. But then there's the Githyanki and the Githzeri, which are the two that actually were, I think they were in the Fiend Folio going way back, but I don't know that they had a lot of psionic focus back then. And they were purely monster. But then with the 3-5 psionics, they were an available option as well. And I think are they astral plane?
Sounds right.
Based? I think
Yeah,
that's
that
right.
sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're interesting. There's some good lore there, and they would be interesting as well. But they also have a much more unique look to them.
Yeah, I know it's something that Severlin has mentioned kind of from a casual standpoint of if we go psionics, do we want to add these? Can you add these without adding psionics, kind of a thing? Let's see. This one, I think this one's kind of fun. Shifters, just from a shape-shifting standpoint. Although I think that's a tech challenge one, right? Like, how much shifting are they going to be able to do? And if you can't do very much shifting, are they worth it?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that's a challenge is if a race is going to replace a core class feature. I don't know this, so I know that the Druids would consider their shifting a core class feature, although it is pretty important to them. And if you move that into a race, then does that limit that class's value? So basically, by being a shifter,
they wouldn't shift into things that the Druids shift in, right? Because the
yeah.
Druids are shifting into animal and elementals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then the question would be, what can they turn into, and what's the value in that?
Yeah.
But if they could, if they shift into something similar to a wolf, though, and you can basically get a wolf build with any class, that might be a little bit of a limiting factor.
And see, my thing is, I wish they had more options for the Druid for shifting.
Sure.
So that not every Druid had to pick all the shifting that's available to them, and just not use the ones they don't want. It would be nice to. It'd be nice to see a lot of the other options, the lion and a few other things. I think would be a lot better.
Interesting.
Yeah,
they basically have like a melee offense, a melee defense, and then a fire and an ice spec. And getting some more variation there would be wonderful for the Druids.
Yeah, and I'd rather see that before I saw shifters. Honestly, that would give them. I think that would make the abilities more iconic for the Druid.
It'd be interesting to see if they did do a shifter and they did it around the same time that, say, the Druid revamp was happening, and then what would be the synergies between the shifter Druid as a race class combo. But I don't know. I think the shifter is interesting in a lot of ways that some of these other races that we're talking about, like Kobold, for example, just aren't, because of some of the possibilities and the new things that open.
Bonnie is saying shifters would naturally shift into kobolds.
Well, that might be two birds with one stone.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So I want to go specifically to, or more generally here a little bit, monstrous races. We've talked a little bit about some races that are kind of more monsters, or typically monsters. They're not necessarily player races as a rule. What do we think about playing monstrous races? Is that something that you think players would be interested in, or there's one specifically that you would be interested in?
I know for me, the monstrous race that I would love to see in the game would be a Hound Archon. I'm a paladin at heart, and I would actually switch from being a sword and board paladin to being a two-handed fighting with a greatsword if they actually brought Hound Archon in.
That's a pretty that was a little bit more out there. I mean, that's not even a game either. So I like it, but it's
interesting.
Good choice.
As far as monstrous races go, I'm generally kind of actually opposed to them for the most part, at least until we get through a lot of what I consider to be the player races. And even Dragonborn's not super high on that list for me, more so the other ones we've been talking about here. But when you start to get into monstrous races, I would look at ones that maybe have some more interesting elements to them. Some ones I thought of was like the Shade, for example, which we have the Shadar-kai, which is actually probably an iconic of a Shade more so than anything else. Or like a Yugoloth or a Rakshasa, which would be some interesting caster-based races, or even a Vampire, which would have some interesting synergy with what Pale Master can do, and maybe being able to play an undead race. Although, again, like with the Shifter and the Druid, with doing that negatively impact the value proposition of the Pale Master.
I'm sure Drac doesn't care. He'd go for vampires.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Say, yep, sign me up. I'll take it. And I think it would be fun to do a Rakshasa too, though.
He gets back into the shape-shifting aspect.
Yeah.
So here's a question, though, because you look at monster races, right, and they are a little bit more, tend to be a little bit more powerful than your average player race. So if, at least from 3.5, you were considered to be, like if you were, I think Hound Archons were +4 level.
You basically, you basically, I think it's 3. It's actually 3 with Hound Archon.
Okay.
And you basically start out. No way, I take that back. It's even higher than 4.
Is it 4?
I think it's 6. I think it's like 6.
Well, anyway, so you start.
If you
higher,
did something
right?
like that, if you did something like that, it would have to be tied to the iconic type processes, where you basically start out, level 6, and you get 9 levels to pick, another class, classes from. I think that would be the only way to go.
That's what I wanted to ask is how would we deal with that? Like if we started adding these kind of races to the game.
I think the only way to do that would be to create them as similar to iconic type races, where they start at these higher levels and go from that direction.
So then they would be like one of their classes, quote classes, would be that race.
Yeah, it would be very similar to how they added in the epic race, the epic levels. It would just basically be monster levels.
Well, I think you'd have to do it as a class, just from a tech standpoint, right?
Well, you'd have to make that as the class. The monster would have to be the class as far as the technical standpoint goes. It may also potentially limit them to where they can only be 2 classes, 2 actual classes, in order to stay within the current.
And you wouldn't be able to get
confines.
your capstones.
Absolutely, you would be giving those up. You'd be giving up a lot of those capstones, which is why you would need to make the racial enhancements interesting enough.
Sure.
That'd be an interesting change in terms of complexity and diversity for the game. I think that would also probably eliminate certain combinations that would be overpowered that you're seeing. Some of the problems we have with the Blade Forge, for example, right now, maybe being a little bit overpowered in certain scenarios.
Possibly. What do you guys feel? How do you guys feel about? We're talking about monstrous races. What about races that are larger size categories, or smaller size categories? Right, we could go down to pixies.
Well, I'm not so sure I'm for the smaller categories. I think much smaller than halfling, people will start missing them on the screen and forget they're in the party.
I mean, people already miss the halflings, so.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I said any smaller, and that you could have some other problems. But I really like the idea of some of the larger ones. One of my favorite large races was actually the half giant, which is also another tie-in with psionic races. But I think bringing in like the half giant type thing might actually validate some of the role player types who like to use like the big clubs. I mean, I like to see more people use different weapons than just the common, bastard swords and kopeshes and things like that.
How many variations on Hodor will we get for naming, though, for that?
I don't know.
The only issue I have with really, really large races, and I like the idea of them, for every reason you just said, is that we have certain areas of the game where the physics will be challenging with that. I already have trouble sometimes with a PDK or a half orc in navigating some of the Mario areas where you're just too big and the physics are off, and so you bounce off things or you can't fit through things very well. Which I mean can be somewhat realistic as well and can create some strategy perhaps. But maybe we need a halfling in the party to squeeze through here. But
No, I agree with you. Coalesce Chamber is much easier on a halfling or a dwarf character than it is on anything else.
And then in Temple of Deathworm, the jump room is in some cases easier on bigger characters to get that ledge, or to not fall through when you're trying to run across those little bars.
Yeah. Jack, what about you? How do you feel about the larger races?
I think it'd be awesome to play like a giant. That would be sweet. Just have like a giant barbarian just like throwing boulders at everybody. I mean, come on. How cool would that be?
It'd be kind of fun, yeah. I was just thinking about, like, there's certainly some larger races that are kind of fun and add in some interesting dynamics. I think the smaller ones would be kind of fun and exciting too, but I think in general, I don't know how well they would translate into DDO. Like, I feel like the allure to playing these different sized races is you in more of a role playing setting and in a pen and paper setting where you have a lot more freedom. I mean, you're not confined to a pre-built quest, right? Like the DM has a lot more freedom in his built quests, and you can play a lot more with those kind of aspects of your characters. So I don't know. I kind of have a mixed feeling about that, but.
Yeah, there is that, but I will say this on as far as the small goes. If they added quicklings in, I would probably go that route. That would be a lot of fun.
There's gonna be a lot of people that are listening to this podcast going to be going back to their monster manuals and older books. Like, what race is this?
What the heck are they talking about?
So speaking of ones that were, like, what are we talking about? Drac, you had one that was a little bit more esoteric.
Yeah, I bet nobody thought about this one. It's called the Venari, and they are basically monkeys. They are like humanoid monkeys. And in 3.5, they got like +2 to intelligence, +2 to wisdom, and it was like, I think, +1 to charisma. I forgot what it was, but it was like a -3 to strength. So you're very smart, but you're not very strong, and you're basically a monkey creature. How cool would that be?
It'd be fun. Bonnie also mentioned on our on Twitter Tabaxi, which I believe are.
And why does it not surprise me she wants a Tabaxi? Yeah, say if you don't know what it is, you're a cat, basically. You look like a human, but you're a cat, and you sit like a cat, and you walk like a cat. So that's Bonnie all over.
Is it big or small?
They're medium-sized.
Okay, so it's not like Puss in Boots, a little kitty cat walking around wearing clothes.
Right? No.
Okay.
Although if they ever added that to the game, you'd have to get like the fedora kind of hat or what is it he's got? The one the hat that comes out of Wrath of Flame that has the feather in it.
Yeah.
Feather in the cap. You'd almost have to get one of those, but
He needs a special enhancement too where he can make those big weepy eyes at you.
yeah. I was actually thinking, so back in when I was playing pen and paper a lot more, I really wanted to play a race that had more than 2 hands, which I thought would be kind of a fun difference. So that I feel like that could be a really interesting way to go. Like you can get more than just like you have 4 hands instead of 2 hands. That could be exciting.
Kind of like the Merilith has 6 weapons going at one time.
Yeah, I was going to say, you basically want to play a Merilith, is what you're saying.
No,
Quad
I was
weapon
going for some.
No, there is an ape, and I can't think of the name of it now, that has the 4 arms.
Yeah,
That was
it starts
iconic.
with it starts with the G.
Yeah,
like
I used to
Cerulean,
use
maybe?
polymorph. Yeah, I used to use polymorph into that with my casters because it was the best way to climb. With you have a low climb skilled character.
Good way to go.
Yeah,
Polymorph, the most broken spell in the game. Anyways.
The characters with tails, if you could do something on the racial tree to make the tail prehensile, where you would get extra actions or extra attacks or other
Just a
things
tail
like that.
ring would be fun,
Yeah.
right? Like put a
Or-
ring on your tail.
Yeah,
Something
or extra
like that.
gear slot.
Yeah.
How OP would a race be that has an extra gear slot, though?
Yeah, right? That'd be exciting.
Everyone's like, I just need one more gear. Just one more gear.
Can we have a race that has 2 heads, 4 hands, and 2 feet, and a tail that you can put stuff on? That'd be great. Solve all of the gearing problems. Although I think part of the reason why DDO is really interesting from a character build standpoint is gear selection. So adding more slots can make some of that out there. Any other, either from the chat room or from you guys, any other races that you think would be kind of interesting to talk about here? I mean, we can go really crazy here.
Yeah, we could.
I thought half dragons could be kind of fun, or some things that
If you're going to
you
be
can get into
shifting,
templates.
shift into a dragon, an actual dragon.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I think there's also some options for templates, right? Like half dragon templates.
Yes.
And there's more than just that, but I think that's the one that comes to mind the most in terms of being a player race. I mean, it's kind of mixing Dragonborn and human at that point. And if you have Dragonborn, do you really need half dragon? Yeah. In any case, all right, there you go. So Bonnie's saying Minotaurs.
Yes, Minotaurs. I didn't even think about that.
Here's my problem with Minotaurs. How do you translate this idea that Minotaurs can't get lost to the people that always get lost?
They get the Bigsby hands that automatically just work for them.
Yeah, there you go.
Go in the strike. Or like if you played the game Fable, there's like the it's probably more, but they had like the little glowing trail, like this is the direction you're supposed to go, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. A Minotaur just automatically gets that, but they start with a 3 charisma.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, so there's a lot of races to go. Feel free in our comments section. Throw in, what race would you like to see? Why do you think it would be a good fit for DDO? Or why are some of the ones that we're throwing out would be terrible for DDO? I know there were some people when we were talking about when we debated tieflings and kobolds a couple of weeks ago. They're saying no more races. We've got enough races already, which is certainly a valid position to take. We went a little crazy though.
One aspect of the races that I heard mentioned somewhere was the idea of the racial past life and extending it beyond the iconic into having regular races have past lives. And I'm not sure that's something I'm excited about, because in terms of creating more past lives from a power creep standpoint and that sort of thing. I think the iconics are fine, and adding those periodically is okay. But getting too many past life things going on is a little bit of a, I don't know.
I have a feeling.
I'd be opposed to that.
I have a feeling anytime we get a new race, we're going to get a new iconic version of it, and with that, a iconic past life. Just from the standpoint that they've stated a few times that it's not very much extra work to do an iconic version of the race compared to making a new race, right? If you're making, if you're in the process of making a new race, you're basically like, I'm just throwing this number out there, but they're like 75% of the way there, so.
Yeah, and at the same time, there are some of the races we threw out which would probably work best starting out just as an iconic and not as a standard race.
Yeah,
that's true.
It's certainly true indeed. All right, so with that, we're going to get into game news, which is kind of exciting because, hey, Update 32 came out. So we have a new update, which is always fun. So we'll go through the release notes a little bit. Kind of gone through them on the show before, but obviously Against the Slave Lords is out. Chaos Crafting has been updated. Let's see, other stuff. They fixed a bunch of text things, which I think was, well, thank you, Linabelle. The Paladin Past Life feat now lists its correct healing amplification, which is interesting because I'm not sure what the correct amplification is now. I just out of my head. Let's see. Merciful Shot now scales with range power. That's great.
Isn't it 5% per life?
That's what I think. That sounds right. Let's see. Other fun stuff. Single weapon fighting feat tooltips now properly attribute attack speed to a combat style bonus. That's good. Stunning Fist now has its DC listed in its tooltip. Thank you. Can we do that for everything?
Yeah, I like seeing the DCs.
All the spells that don't have the DCs and all the...
I like seeing the DC when I put the tooltip there. It helps me.
Yeah.
Implosion needs that badly.
Yeah, I always look at, instead of looking at implosion, I look at my blade barrier, and then because my cleric doesn't have heightened, then I have to do the math. It's like, come on. Yeah. Loot. So there's a lot of changes to loot. There's now more appearances. I don't know that I've seen any of the new appearances. I don't think I've put any new armor on since then. But has anyone seen some appearances that they like that they missed or anything like that?
Actually, I meant to do this, but I have not put on any of the random armor to see if it looks different.
Yeah.
I actually missed the old looks and things like that, and I look forward to actually seeing different types of looks on armor. Not like the old days where everyone had a dragon. What was it when those level 16 armor?
The dragon touch?
Dragon. Yeah, the dragon touch, where
Yeah,
you
the
could look around
blue.
and everybody was wearing dragon touch.
Yeah. It was a dragon touch and a Minos helm. That was like the standard outfit for a while. Let's see. Hide armor is now in the randomly generated loot. All the druids rejoiced. So that's great.
I missed hide armor.
Yeah, that was
I
brutal.
love that armor.
That was brutal not having some of that stuff for a druid. And I think you could put it on the wolf pets as well, so that'll be fun. Collectibles have been added to a lot of dungeons. The release notes actually did not have a full list. Coco Majabo, I think is how you pronounce it, something to that effect, put out a more complete list. To his understanding, that list should include all of the Menace of the Underdark quests, all of the Shadowfell Conspiracy quest, Study and Sable, Brothers of the Forge, Haunted Halls, Precious Cargo, the epic versions of Prove Your Worth and Ghost of a Chance, which I thought was kind of funny because aren't those like the heroic versions fairly similar? Maybe not. Terminal Delirium, Fashion Show, Palace of Stone, Temple of Elemental Evil, the Archon's Trials quests, and Multitude of Menace, Subversion, and Grim and Barrett, Tavern Brawl, To Curse the Sky, and Creeping Death, which is a lot of them. I think that leaves the High Road. It was like the only one I can think of off the top of my head that's not in there.
Yeah.
So they got a lot of them.
Is the Druid's Curse series in there?
No, that one too.
Yeah. One thing I noticed was that I was running some Epic GH, and all the Epic GH collectible drops now drop the new stuff.
Mhm.
But any mobs you kill with the little purple bag, those are still the old ones that you would get at the heroic
Yeah,
level.
they
So-
said that wasn't planning to change. I think it's still based on just killing that. Whatever it is, you still get the same thing. So, let's see. Collectibles used in cans crafting now stacked to 500. Yay! Does anyone else feel like they need like a lot of my characters used to have small collectible bags because I didn't really feel like I needed to get a bigger one because I didn't collect collectibles as much. I'm having problems with inventory space now because I'm collecting a lot more collectibles. If you need a larger collectibles bag, other than the free ones, you can get free ones in the harbor, free small bags, or small collectible, small gem, and a tiny ingredient bag. You can get a small ingredient bag from the 12 for free. You can also buy medium bags in House P. They are exclusive, so you can't get more than one of them, but you can go get them there. Many of my characters are going in that direction. What was that?
Is that the Object Desire Tavern?
I think it's the one that's closer to the airship. I don't remember the name, to be honest.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the other thing is don't forget you can also go in and spend some time in the subterranean and collect those shards and turn them in for a large bag as well, either
150,
collectible
right?
or ingredients.
And I assume this is still the case, but at least the way it used to work was the more you pick up collectibles, the more often you get collectible bags from things you kill. At least they had mentioned that way back.
I've been collecting since 06, so I've got a pretty decent collection of a lot of different collectibles out there.
I've been half-heartedly collecting since 2006, but I do like that they're introducing new collectibles, so you can't just like boom, you've got everything you need. So there's that. Let's see. Epic and harder Hezrus, Umber Hulks, and Slod now have epic rocks and enjoy throwing them at you, which I assume means that they do more damage than they did before. I'd be curious to know if Giants had that problem. as well.
Hmm.
So, the Hall of Heroes has had its music change, and I didn't notice this. I'll be honest. I wasn't
I'm
really
glad I'm
listening.
not the only one.
See, I actually have had the music off probably since 2008.
Yeah. The newer
I
stuff
noticed-
tends to have better music, I think. But
I noticed the rugs in the Hall of Heroes.
Yeah, I
They
didn't
really
notice that
tie that
either.
room together.
yeah, whatever. Let's see. Other stuff. Divine Punishment now has its max caster level specified. Well, that's convenient. I didn't even know it had a max caster level until I saw the note.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Guessing most people didn't. And then they moved some stuff around in the quest tab. If you're looking at your quest log, they moved some stuff around. Mostly they took stuff out of the miscellaneous tab that wasn't supposed to be there and put it in tabs. And they gave Trials of Archons its own tab. And then the quest Temple of Unth Evil and Slave Lords are now in the Hall of Heroes tab, since that's where they are.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I did see the change, but I still find it easier to go to the quest compendium, find the quest, double-click it, and then share it from there. It's much easier to find.
It's a good way to do it, actually. Should do that more often myself. There was a hotfix on Thursday, September 15th. They fixed an issue that could prevent progress in the Secret of Slaver Stockade if you killed enemies while located outside of the room. They also fixed an issue that could cause the map object required to complete to disappear if you leave the room after completing the end fight. That would be awkward.
Yeah.
Vampires and Vitality and Keen Cannon's crafting shards no longer give out true seeing shards instead. That's convenient. Except that fix works for bound shards but not unbound shards. So if you craft those in unbound shards, you're going to get a true seeing shard instead. And as Cordovan said, whether that's a good or bad thing is up to you.
Depends upon what you wanted.
Yeah. They fixed an issue that could cause the game client to crash when filtering for Featherfall, Underwater Action, and Death Block. Oops. I'd be curious to, be interested to understand why that happens. If you search for these three things, the game will crash, but not the other ones. It's kind of funny. And the Mythic Heroic loot will no longer appear in the legendary versions of Against the Slave Lord's quests, which is great and unfortunate because someone in our group, Ash and I ran it. I think you were in that group. We ran it earlier this week, and someone got the helm, Executioner's helm, but it was heroic, which was sad. I think it had Mythic 3 on it too, which was very sad.
Yeah, I'm actually going to have to look at my helm because I actually pulled it before the patch.
Yeah,
And
you
I'll
might be wearing a
need to
heroic
look.
helm.
No, I haven't put it on yet. I've just got it in the
Okay.
bank. I'm going to have to look and see if it's heroic or epic.
Yeah, there you go. Some of the bugs, real quick, that we'll go over. There was an issue with the old crafting XP converting to the new crafting XP. So, if you logged in on a crafter between 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time and 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday, September 13th, you would not convert to above level 150. If you converted and you didn't get level 150 in the new system, you wouldn't be impacted. But if you would have, you will need to contact an in-game game master for help. They've got a fix. It shouldn't take you very long, other than you have to wait for them. But that's what you have to do. You have to be logged in when you get contacted to receive assistance. And again, this is only if you logged in with Cannith crafting levels between 11:30 and 12:30 Eastern Time on Tuesday, September 13th. And your existing levels would have converted to be above 150 in the new system. Let's see. Some other things that are going on. The guest pass is not delivering properly, and they removed that temporarily from the DDO store. It said it should be back in the next patch, but it wasn't in the... so probably in the patch, not the hotfix. And that pretty much covers that in terms of bugs. We'll say also here at this point, older random loot gen items, you can't disjunct them, basically. They're not able to be dissolved into Cannith essences. This is by design. and unfortunately that message got lost in transit. Basically, what it had to do with was adding a bunch more recipes to convert them. So this is any of the items that didn't use the new random loot system. So any of the older items. So.
There's also a bug where some items that have a non-scaling weapon effect, like Vorpal or Paralyzing, are not disjunctable. You can only prep them for crafting. You can't get essences out of them.
I know that Cordovan did make a distinction in one of his posts too, that dissolving is where you get essences, disjuncting is where you make them craftable. But yeah, I don't know. Well, the thing with Vorpal is it would be easy to, like, if you had a Vorpal weapon, it would be easy to get it confused with a new version or an older version, because it basically would be the same. So that might be what's going on there. In any case, that's the Update 32 news. And I wanted to go just quickly around the table, first impressions. And we'll start with the quests. What are your first impressions about the quests? Go.
Well, I like the quests. I find them fun. They're longer, and I think that's actually a good thing. We've had some packs recently with shorter content, quicker quests. So I like that these are a little bit longer. I like that balance. The variety of mobs I enjoy. I'm not sure it's thematic in some cases, but
Yeah, that's fair.
It fills out my monster manual nicely, and it creates a variety of challenge. I like a lot of the little puzzles and the bear and the different little tweaks. The one room you have to take your armor off in. We should go to the ceiling. Little things like that. Those little touches that are unique and different are nice.
Yeah, and I'm going to have to echo that thought. I like a lot of the different aspects of it. I do like the length of it. At some times, though, the second quest does feel a little bit longer than maybe it should have been. It could have probably been cut into two, but at the same time, it's still not so bad that you feel like you're there forever. I do like the touch. In fact, I didn't notice the trap for the metal armor the first time I ran through because I didn't have metal armor on. But when I ran through with my paladin, straight to the ceiling. So
that was a nice touch, because they were talking about how, I guess in the actual module, it, like, you lose your gear, like it pulls the gear into the magnet and you can't get it back. So I liked how and he was, I think it was Nobob that did that particular trap. He was talking about how it was a bit challenging to figure out how to make that trap still there, but not as egregiously damaging and unforgivable for players.
Right, and but I also have to admit I did enjoy the cheese room. Okay, the room full of cheese. You got to open that every time you go through there, even though you can skip it. And the cheese is mine. Okay, everyone just get that. Enoch owns the cheese.
Right. And you were saying
I like the honeybee room too. The honeybee room's cool.
Yeah, that's kind of funny.
Yeah, it is. That is a cool trap.
You were mentioning too the traps before we went live, and how you liked the traps and the number and variety.
Oh yeah, I love the variety of traps in there. I like the idea of a quest where it can still be done without a trapper, but at the same time having somebody who can actually disable the traps makes everything so much easier in that aspect. And I don't really think it slows down the progress of the quest that much. To wait for a trapper to put a line through like the mine traps and stuff like that. But at the same time, the mix of traps, it's not all the same trap. I mean, not every room is going to be full with mines. You've got your flame jet traps, you got your lightning traps, you got your air traps, and of course you've got your magnet traps. And I really like that idea. I think that really will help a lot of people who enjoy playing someone who can handle traps and give them that enjoyment out there.
I like that the traps were not, like you're saying, you can get by them if you don't have a trapper. Like, you can jump over the pressure plates without too much difficulty. There's a lot of them in a confined space, but if you know that they're there, you can jump over them.
Yeah, and there are options for that.
I like that they're not guaranteed death if you don't have a trapper. That's too much in my opinion. These ones are there in such a way that if you're paying attention and you're controlling your character, you're probably not going to die even without a trapper. But if you're being careless, then and you just kind of go run into those pressure plates and stand in them or try and fight in them. I tried to fight in some once, and the mobs came into me, and they were triggering the plates, which was causing damage for me. You got to be a little smart about it, otherwise it's not going to go so well.
Exactly.
I was having the problem this morning when running it, where I was just far enough behind someone that, well, I was close enough, but not like right on top of them. But like they'd run through and like, oh geez, there it is, and I'd like try to start dodging, and then the person behind me would run through it and trigger them all again and kill me.
Yeah, it's definitely, if you're going to run through it, you're going to run through it one at a time.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure's that. What about you, Drac? Have you had a chance to run these yet?
Yes, I haven't run the third one. I've done the first two several times on different characters. I like that they kept it as close to the original as they could. There was some tweaks that they had to do, but that's understandable. I just think they kept to the spirit of the original modules a lot. I do like the traps. Like Enoch said, I like the variety of the traps. It's not all just one type of trap. And I thought they were just fun little dungeons.
I like the interesting dynamic of the final end fight in the third one as well. It's a little bit of a different mechanic, which I enjoy. I enjoy new mechanics. I probably would have liked to have seen the challenge level of the end fight of the first two ramped up a little bit. Overall, I'm okay with base trash mobs not being very, very challenging, but I do like really challenging end fights.
We were in a really strong group too, though.
Yeah, I ran both legendary normal as well as legendary elite for part 3, and there is a big difference between the end fights as far as the number and all those kind of things. But the dynamic is really there. I really do like that whole, that structure that's there. Again, if you've got a controller type class, someone that can use intimidate or lots of hate, that can make that end fight really easy. If you've got a bunch of people who are pretty much, not so much controllers or anything like that, that end fight on legendary elite can get a little nasty, especially with that assassin that runs around.
I found that I enjoyed the quests okay. I felt like they needed a little bit more interesting fights. Most of the fights were just kind of generic hack and slash. If you like a hack and slash dungeon crawl, you'll love these quests because it has that feeling to it. I did appreciate the end fight having a different mechanic and like actually having something you had to figure out. And actually, like we were both running through it on our first time with some people in our guild that had run through it before, and we started to go in the end fight, and one of the guys like, okay, so now I'm like, shh, shut it. We're gonna figure this out, right?
Yeah, it is a lot of fun to do something like that the first time without any spoilers.
Yeah, he said he then threatened to wait outside the room until we figured we figured it out pretty quick. But I will say I was a little disappointed with the DMing, not because I thought it was done poorly. I just didn't really notice it was someone special, to be honest. I was kind of halfway through the second part before I realized that, oh, right, there's a special dude that did the DMing for this, and I hadn't really noticed it. Or I think part of it was, if you look at Haunted Halls and Temple of Mental Evil, like there's the commentary part to it,
right,
which really adds that sense of, oh, this guy's important when he's doing it, right? Didn't really have that here. But the bear was really awesome.
Roar.
Yeah.
The optional XP has to be bumped up, though. I mean, you get like 4K for the 3 guys, the party members in the part 3. You're getting like 600 XP or something like that for saving 20. Yeah. I mean, this is Legendary Elite. Come on. Yeah. Give us 10K.
As far as the loot and the crafting system goes, I liked looking through it that the crafting system is very simple. There's 6 ingredients. you need one. Each ingredient is basically used for something specific, right? Like you need multiple ingredients to do kind of the augment slot, the set bonus, and like the quality feature that you can put on it. But it's like there's 3 base ingredients. One comes from each of the different dungeons, and they give you your 3 basic things that you go on the crafting, and then you need 3 special ingredients and some of each of the other ingredients to do the quality set bonus and augment slot. So I thought it's very simple. If you're trying to take one of the items and put a specific fill in a specific slot, you know what quest you need to go run. Once you figure out which items come from where. So I like that. It was pretty simple. The loot looks pretty good as well. So I would personally like to see like not having to run the quest quite as much to build an item, but
Well, that's what we have to do right now, endgame. I mean, I think it creates a little bit of a grind, which is part of what an endgame should have.
Yeah, I mean, part of the one thing that we have with the raids and stuff like that was most of the time when we did building of raids, especially starting with the Shroud when it first came out, most people didn't expect to actually have a full item until their 20th run. And I'm not sure this matches that for item, but I think it can come close.
we have a guildie who ransacked all 3 of them on Legendary Elite, and he basically he was close to finishing an item, I think, or he was like halfway there or something like that. So
yeah,
he had a good number of ingredients.
Yeah. I think one of the things that's interesting is that they are really incentivizing running this on Legendary Elite because the drop rates drop off dramatically. They're probably about 60% on hard, but then the drop off to normal is really significant.
And running it on normal, I did see that. Yeah, the Legendary Elite is definitely much higher than Legendary Normal as far as the ingredient goes.
I like how they put the ingredients in separate chests too. That was kind of convenient, so you know which chest was which. And I think also the ingredient chests don't. We were hearing that the ingredient chests may not even ransack, so you still got the same ingredients. So.
Yeah, we've actually run with blessers, and it doesn't seem to make any adjustment. Blessing,
that would be
having
pretty standard.
That stuff. Yeah.
The loot with the chest blessing it impacts only random loot. It's never affected getting named items or the crafting bits out of anything. So,
but it makes it easier. Give everybody a chest of loot while give the time for the blesser to handle their thing.
If those chests don't ransack either, that changes your grind dramatically because you can keep rerunning them, and even if you don't do the end fight, honestly, the end chest gives you no better items than any of those small chests, and there's typically 5 or 6 per quest. There's a good number of them.
Yeah.
Well, it also incentivizes you from going in the different areas of the dungeon too. So.
But there is one other note to take in there is no matter what, the end rewards on Legendary, the counts at the bottom when you can pick up the ingredients are the exact same. You're going to get 5 of the rare and I think it's like 10 of the 20 of the more common.
Yep.
So you can still run it on the Legendary normal, but you're going to probably get a large portion of your ingredients from that turn-in.
Yep. All right, we're gonna. Anything else anyone wants to say about Update 32 before we move on? So there's our somewhat extended quick thoughts of Update 32. Bonus days for the week. You get a plus 10% buddy bonus for parties, not raids, as well as double mysterious remnants boosts, which is great for any of the new stuff because we were getting a lot of remnants this weekend. And the XP is not too bad either. Also, through September 19th, they brought back Crystal Cove for Talk Like a Pirate Day, which is kind of a big tradition for DDO. Let's see, store news. Sales for the week. You can get 25% off of Heroic Shroud ingredients, crafting storage upgrades, crafting experience elixirs, and crafting success boosters. You can also get... the preview for the week is a new item, a random collectibles crate with the code RANDSUM, RANDSUM, and you get 1 per account. That's one of the new items that they came out with. this week. The other new items, of course, would be the adventure pack. And I unfortunately didn't grab the rest of them, which I'll do momentarily. You can also, because the Elixir of Angels Tears code didn't work, unfortunately, so they had to it didn't work over the weekend, so they put in a new code, which I believe you can enter even if you use the old code and get an Angel Elixirs here through the 18th. That code is DRINKUP2. So it's basically the same code, just +1. So, see, and I think with that, we will move into community news, which means we will go to the Chronicle for the week. See, Tolls is using math to get the most out of the new Canvas crafting system. I think he was looking at like the most efficient way to level up your character. Certain was also playing DDO in 4K. So he hooked up a 4K TV to a computer to play DDO, and it looked really nice and sharp. It's probably the biggest problem I thought was the scaling of the UI was just incredibly small compared to what he had going on there. Let's see. The goal for the week: help a DDO player reunite with friends. Gardavi DDO is looking to find old friends who play DDO and need some community assistance, so you can check that out if you want to help. Right, the comment for the week: if we have short swords and long swords, why don't we have medium-sized swords? Anybody?
It's the same reason we have heavy mace and light maces. The mace is just a mace. We don't say the average.
I like that.
It's difficult to get just the right amount of ingredients to make a medium one, so it's easier to do short and long.
Okay, that works. I don't know, but we've got bastard swords, so it's not so much fun to just say sword, because then people don't know what you're looking at, right? Like,
And come
sword,
on, let's be honest.
Just sword would be like, what kind of sword, right? That'd be the next question. Medium sword is, I don't know, not as fun.
Yeah, it's not as cool as saying I have a long sword.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
See, Fansite news for the week. We got a shout out for our show on gloves. City built a Pale Master Trapper. Even note, found out her bank bard is stronger than expected. Tactilicious and Craftlicious looked at the past week in questing, and Enrique discussed Sheva. DDO Gamer found a strange pick in the Foundation of Discord, and Mickey got legendary. Let's see. Some videos this week. Axel had a video on the DDO forums. So he kind of went through the forums and the different subsections of the forums and kind of looked at why you might want to be looking in those places. Also, Axel and Voodoo both had videos of them going through the new quests. Blogs this week. Congratulations to DDO Central. It was their 2nd anniversary this past week. Great job there. If you don't know about DDO Central is essentially he kind of combines as much stuff about DDO as he can onto his website. So he doesn't actually produce any new content, but what he does is he grabs content from everywhere else and reposts it there so you can read it. Some of them are older posts, some of them are newer posts, which, you know, some people like that, some people don't, but that's what he does. He usually posts about 3 per day, and he's a great person to follow on Twitter, at DDO Central, so you can get a lot of those things. And he also will repost, like when I release a show, or when Drac releases a show for Players News and the Damsels and all that kind of stuff. He's pretty good about reposting pretty much everything in that. So, let's see. DDO Players News had its 101st episode. Damsels had their 50th episode. Let's see, the city also had, we talked about the Pale Trapper build that he had. Let's see, DDO Splat News. We are doing pretty good. We did have a lot more of an exciting adventure the last time. We were running Devil's Details and Tavern Brawl on Elite Heroic, and some people died a few times. It got a little exciting.
Wow, I'm sorry I missed that one.
Yeah. It was, yeah. It got interesting, that's for sure.
Well,
And
those are examples of the tough difference between the newer content versus the older content at level.
yeah. It was challenging. There was screaming and dying and gnashing of teeth. But it was a lot of fun, too, so. Let's see. With that, we'll get into our lightning post for the week, and didn't have too much, but what we did have coming from Stoner81, you can get Ghostly. So we're talking about Ghostly on Spectral Gloves last week. He said you can get Ghostly at level 9 by getting the Cloak of Invisibility from Heroic Tempest Spine. You can slot in a Heavy Fort augment and wear it until level 20 or even higher. And it's funny because I read that, and then we ran Tempest Spine that night, and I pulled one. So
That's what happens.
yeah, there you go. See, and our survey question for the week. This comes from Bob on Solona. What is your favorite looking armor?
I still like the black dragon armor.
Yeah, dragon armor in general is pretty slick looking. I like
Pretty dragon armor.
I like the ninja armor, like the ninja outfit for my monk. That I've always appreciated that look.
Yeah, it's hard to pass up.
Yeah, I haven't actually found my favorite armor yet. I'm hoping maybe with the new armor looks and things like that are out there, I will find one. I've always been trying to find just that kind of like glowing, heavy-looking plate that doesn't make a person look like he's a fat, short guy, but actually makes him look like that iconic paladin, with the gleaming armor kind of look. That's what I'm looking for.
Okay, Drake, you have a favorite armor?
I don't really have a favorite, actually. I was just trying to think of the answer to that, and I can't think of one that really jumps out at me. The dragon armor looks nice. I actually don't have any, of course, yet, but it does look nice. So I guess I'll go with dragon.
All right. There's a lot of fun armors in the game that you can find too. So keep looking if you haven't found any. With that, we're gonna close out the show here. Drac, do you want to talk about players' news? I know you guys have some giveaways, right?
Yes, we do. They go till the 20th, so the show should probably be out before then, so you still have time. Just go over to DDOplayers.com, look for the giveaway post, and enter for that, giving away the DDO 10th Anniversary dice bags and the set of dice, and also a Drow Mini comes with those as well. And if you're into pen and paper and Tunnels and Trolls, we have the Tunnels and Trolls Grim Tina's Guard solo adventure book that was exclusive to Gen Con 2016. That is actually signed by the author of the adventure and the father of Tunnels and Trolls, Ken St. Andre. So check that out. And we also have some Battle Bards codes for some music and sound effects to use in your games. So enter that, and just check us out over at DDOplayers.com.
And your shows are when?
Monday night at 8:30, we record live. You can listen to us just by going to DDOplayers.com/live. We use Mixler to broadcast, and then the shows are released the following Wednesday then.
Yes. Ash or Enoch, do either of you guys have something you want to plug here?
No, not at this time.
Great. So thanks for listening to the show. Thanks for my guest here for helping me out today. And thanks to all the folks that help make DDOcast happen and hop on the show every once in a while. And thanks to Turbine and Wizards for making DDO happen, and especially for Turbine for supporting DDOcast as well. And thanks to Cyberbears for hosting the podcast. You can hit us up at DDOcast.com for show notes, MP3s, our calendar, previous shows, swag, and other fun stuff. If you'd like to be a part of the show, if you have a comment on this episode, a question you'd like to hear us answer, or a topic you'd like to hear us debate, or if you just want to say hi, you can leave us a comment, or you can email us at ddocast@gmail.com. You can also find us on social media and the latest cast updates, specifically Twitter, at ddocast. On Twitter is the best place to find me. Our closing tip for the week comes from Puppies and Rainbows on Orion, who says, buy the wife the Warlock class. Which can be a good option if you are playing with your wife and she is new to DDO. It's a great class to start with, that's for sure. So until next time, may all your attack rolls be crits, all your chest level appropriate, have fun, and don't forget to check out Assault on the Slave Lords.